Hello, I'm Rick Stivers. I'd like to welcome you to Young Martin's Reels. Today we had a little bit of a competition. I wouldn't really call it a competition. I put out a request to see of the 10 or 11 reels that I put out last week, how many of them, which ones you would like to have seen first. And wow, there's a heck of a glare on my glasses in there. Let's take those off for a second until I need them to read. Okay, so anyway, Chris Jenkins was the first to respond, saying that he would like to see me do this Daiwa GS-13X. And so since he was first, that's the first one. That's the one we're going to do tonight. And the one for next is going to be this Bantam. It's made by Shimano. It's a Bantam Max. And it's a very early Bantam. It's very small. I like it. And we're going to be doing that one tomorrow night. So let's get started. We're going to start out today with a quick ops check to see if this thing's up and running. And let's bring this out just a little bit. Okay, it turns pretty nice. It's a smooth reel, but it's stiff. It's like it's got old grease in it. Let's see how the bail works. Okay, the bail seems to be tripping just fine. Okay, let's check the anti-reverse. Working perfect. Check the drag. Tighten it down. All right. Looks like she's working just fine. Let's go ahead then and start off by removing the bail. Oh, sorry, the spool. Look at the dirt coming out of this thing. It's a very dirty reel. Look at that. Okay, we're going to be scrubbing all that up, getting it clean. All right. Oh, I knew that because I showed you guys that the other day. This spool on this is a quick release spool, so I didn't have to take the top off. Get the flat spot lined up here, like so. And I'm gonna put that back on and remove it in the proper fashion, which is a quick release. All right. Now we're gonna take the handle off. There we go. And that looks pretty good. Put a couple drops of oil in there, a few in there, spin it around. Okay, I'm gonna break these 3 screws loose. Okay, cover comes off. And let's see here. All right, we should be able to remove this. Yep, there's a shim right here. Let's not lose the shim. So we'll set it over to the side along with the side plate, and then this bearing should come off. It's kind of binding a little bit. This is probably due to some old dirt or old grease. Okay, there's the bearing removed. Now, this crosswind arm should come out, and I believe this pin will pull out. It may not, it may be part of it. Okay, which means then I need to remove the entire arm. There we go. Okay, so it slides off of the pin here. And I don't believe this is going to come out without taking out the axle, and it won't. So the next thing we're going to do is remove the axle assembly. Now this axle will slide at this point because that crosswind block is off. So let's go ahead and remove the screw for the axle shaft. There we go. Slide it out. There's our crosswind block, that's got to be the smallest crosswind block that I've seen. And I'm going to put this screw back in the axle right here just to keep it together so we know which screw that is. With the axle out now, the main gear should come out. And it's giving me a little trouble because, let's see, let's try that. The other bearing, there it goes, didn't want to pull off. It was like the upper bearing, it was jammed onto the shaft. It's still sliding, but it's giving me a bit of, there we go. And we're gonna take that bearing all the way off and try to clean it up. I'm gonna have to soak that, I believe, to get that out of there. Okay, there's our main gear. This bearing doesn't want to turn very well. It's got old caked up grease in there, and I'm not talking about slimy grease, I'm talking about very, very hard grease that doesn't want to come out at all. So let's come around here. Then we're looking at there, that looks like a 14 millimeter. And that it is. I'm gonna remove that nut. There we go. Slide the rotor off. Let's see what we've got under here. Are there any shims? Okay, there's no shims here, but we do have shims here. And we have this anti-reverse lever here with a shim on top. No shim, just the anti-reverse lever. Okay, it just looked like a shim. Okay. Now we're going to pull the anti-reverse cog off, like so. And the spacer. We're going to take out this screw. With that screw removed, here comes this lever and this cog. Those two go like this on top of each other, like that. That little piece there is the one that wire for your anti-reverse fits into. This one right here. Okay, it fits in like that. All right. Okay, those two screws we'll put over here. All right, now this block should pull out. Retaining ring comes off. Okay, now this is one that is going to pull out all the way. So in order to get it out, the easy thing to do here is going to be slipping the rotor back on, like so. Screwing the nut back on, and then using the rotor to pull it. There we go, and it come right out. And the bearing comes off. All right. Now there's no point in taking this ramp off because it's clean underneath and it's clean. Even if this was really dirty, you can clean all around it. So there's no real point to taking that off. And I tend to not take this shaft out. I've never taken one out. All you would need to do though, in the event that you had to, is here's your spring location here. You should be able to pop that spring up out of this side, and then this whole thing, once you take this screw out over here, should pull directly out of this end. But I don't see any need to take that out either. Okay, we're gonna pause the camera and we're gonna clean all these parts up. When we come back, we're gonna put it back together. Okay, we're gonna get started putting this back together now. All the parts are cleaned up and ready to go back in. We're gonna start off with our pinion gear. And some of you may notice I've got a new paintbrush here. And the reason I have a new paintbrush, I'm copying an idea from Dennis. I've been using a paintbrush for quite some time, but I like the way his artist brush tended to put down the grease better than my artist brush. So I went and got me a different brush today. And it's still a low-end brush. This thing came from the dollar store. So but some of you may have noticed it, so I'm pointing it out. All right, we're going to put a little grease there. And maybe a dab in there. And then we're going to put some grease on this right here. This is where the bearing is going to slide. So let's start off by putting our bearing on. It doesn't matter which way, this bearing is the same either direction. So let's go ahead and slide it on. Now this is a shielded bearing. It is not a sealed bearing. So I have already oiled it, but I'm going to oil it one more time really good. And I'm going to actually do it again once we get it in. And it's been cleaned up pretty good. And it spins okay. Let's go ahead and set it back into the case. Like that. Okay, and one other thing I want to do, since it is a little bit sticky in the case, let's put some grease on the outside of the bearing so that hopefully the next person who goes to pull it out, it'll slide out better. Now, if they wait so long that the grease turns to concrete, then no, that's not going to help. It'll probably make it worse. All right, we're going to put this bearing retainer back on. And we're going to get the screws started. Don't tighten it all the way. Let's put our second screw in. And once you have both screws started, you can go ahead and snug them up. Next piece we're going to put on, and I had a little bit of trouble getting this to set in place when I played with it a few minutes ago, only because I couldn't get the screw to start in the hole. Okay, we're going to set it in, and then we're going to set this piece in. Now this piece goes in with this twin hook up here. That's got to go on the inside edge. And I'm having a heck of a time holding on to this little piece. There we go. And I think part of the problem is I keep expecting that piece to hold itself on, and it won't because there's nothing on there to hold it on to the other side. Now, let's go ahead and set it in place. See if I can get the screw started. There we go. It started. All right. Once it's started, make sure that this top piece is in that exact position. Okay, it's got to have this wing over this side, this lip on this side, and this part sticking up in the middle. Once you've got that, then you can go ahead and start putting the screw down. Now, you're only going to be able to go so far, and the collar or the shoulder on that screw is going to catch. So you got to stop, get that shoulder to go down inside, and then you can tighten it down the rest of the way. Once it's done, if you've got it right, this piece will move freely like that. Got the bearing installed. We're going to give it a little spin. Let's go ahead one more time and oil it one more time. Give that oil a chance to get down inside there. Next is going to go this collar. That goes down up against the bearing. It's a spacer that lifts this cog up. Okay, we're going to set this anti-reverse cog in here. Goes on top. And then you've got this anti-reverse collar that's got your spring, your tensioner, and it goes in like so. And when you get it in, that little spring should fit right into those two forks right there. Okay, now if you've got it right, then this will only turn one direction. Turn fine this way and it will lock the other direction. See how that works? That's your anti-reverse. This mechanism over here is your trip for your bail, so we don't need to mess with it just yet. Next thing we want to do, let me clean this one last time. That bearing hole. Okay. We've got this bearing. This is the side bearing. This one that was stuck on me. Didn't want to come out. Now this has a sealed side and an open side. The open side goes to the inside of the reel. It goes down and goes into that hole like that. Once you've got it there, give it a nice liberal dose of oil again. I've spun this up. Let me show you how I spin these bearings up. We'll leave that one in place, but I'll go ahead and show you on this one over here. When I'm cleaning these bearings, I will take a pair of needle nose pliers and I'll slide the bearing down onto it like that so it holds the center, and then I can turn the outside and I can keep applying lubricant until I get it to free flow. Okay, and if it's not chewed up and eaten up, that should break free within just a few minutes. Okay. All right, once you've got your anti-reverse set up, reinstalled, it's time to go ahead and reinstall your rotor. First, I'm going to show you how to go about cleaning this. Now, normally we would put this back on by now, but we're going to go ahead and do this bail. And I will repeat, as I do in every one of my videos, don't do this unless you absolutely have to. This one's working fine. Normally, there wouldn't be a reason to take this off if it's working fine, but I'm going to do it just to show you how it goes in case somebody takes one apart. Okay, spring just popped loose. So this one has a double spring. It has a spring on this side and a spring, no, yep, spring on this side and a spring on the other side. It does have some grit and grime in there. Slip that out. There's our spring. Okay. Clean that out. This bail, it's right on the money where it belongs. Okay. This has a curve to it. And I'm wondering, I have a screwdriver that was made specifically for curved screws. This one got the curve to it? It does. I made this screwdriver to fit on Zebco reels, and maybe it will also work on this reel. It does. Look at that. Fits right in there. And all I did is I went to a yard sale and I picked up a screwdriver that had a broken tip. I gave him 50 cents for it and brought it home, cut it down so that it became wide, because see, most of these are wide so they'll fit like a nickel or a quarter. So I ground it down to where it was wide and then I curved it. And that works beautifully for taking this type of screw out. Okay, everything over there goes on that side. Okay, so there's only one spring. The spring is on this side. This one is just a trip lever. There's our trip lever. Wow, this one's really dry. So I'm a little bit surprised that it works as well as it does. It is spring loaded. See there? So I recommend not taking that out. We're not going to take that last piece out just so you can see how that spring is. One part goes in a hole in the arm and the other part goes down in that slot. All right, let's clean this up and let's see if we can get it back together. Okay, parts are clean. We're going to start seeing about putting it back together. We're going to start off by putting this trip lever back in on this side. And it's going to go right there like that. And tell you what, let's do. Let's put just a little bit of grease there, not much, just a little bit. Make sure that that trip arm is on the other side of this right here, so that when this trips back, it's going to flip it back. With that done, we can put this back in. Now let's go ahead and put a drop of oil right here on this release, and then put the cover plate back on. Slide it in, and let's put our screw back in. All right, that's our trip lever side. That should flip back and forth right there. And it does. Okay, we're going to put that back together so that this is going to fit on the opposite side of the trip lever. So when this rotates around, like so, it's going to push that up. Like so. Okay, if you look at it right here, you'll see as it comes around, it trips that arm. Put a drop of oil there. And we will reinstall our curved screw. You know, they made that with that coin slot so that you could take this out in the field. I sure would not want to disassemble a bale in the field. That would never be my choice. Okay. All right, now we're gonna go to this side, and on this side we've got to get the spring back in. Okay, this is our spring, and it's going to mount up inside there. Nope. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lift it out. And put the spring in the hole, and then rotate it back around to go where we want it to. And now we only need to get it to go back into the spring hole. Let's put the screw back in before we do this, at least finger tight, to hold that down so it doesn't pop out of the hole while we do this. There we go. Now the spring is back in the hole. We're going to add grease where that rides, because it has to pivot on that and ride and slide. All right, now we come back here, put this one back in, slide it into place like so. Now let's put the last screw back in. And tighten our big curve screw. All right. Now that I've shown you how to clean this, we're going to put it back on. And you've got these two flat sides on your pinion shaft. You're going to slide that pinion shaft back up through the rotor, like so. And you're going to put your nut back on. Make sure not to cross thread it. There we go, turns fine. Now we're going to start assembling the side, the main part of the assembly. I've already reinstalled the bearing inside there, and I've oiled it. And we're going to install the main gear back into that bearing. So go ahead and slide it in. Go ahead and put the big circle for the crosswind block towards the upper side. It seems to be a little easier if you do that. Okay, slide that down. Next, we're going to reinstall the axle shaft. And I've oiled this And now we're going to put the crosswind block back in. Set your crosswind block. See this pin right here? It has to fit into that slot right there. Okay, so we're going to set that pin down into that slot like so. And now when you bring the axle shaft in, you line the axle shaft into the crosswind block hole like so. Line the holes up. Now let's go ahead and install the screw. That done, we're ready to put the crosswind arm back on, and we're going to put a little bit of grease on that. It seems to work best if you go ahead and put it on the pin first, like so, and then adjust your axle until you can fit it down around the ring. When you finish that up, put some grease on this side where it's going to be riding against the case. And now you've got this small shim, and I'm not sure I showed you that shim on the way out, but it was stuck to the bearing. That shim goes on first, like so. Then comes your side case bearing, your main crankshaft bearing. And this one we're going to go ahead and lubricate once again. Flip it over. Shielded side goes out, like so. And you remember this shim that I took out right at the beginning? We took the side case off. Well, it's going to fit right down into the side case right here, like that. Now, if you're not careful, it can fall out. So what we're going to do is to put the side case on, we're going to stand both parts up sideways like this, slide it in, align it, and snap the cover back down, and we're ready to put the 3 screws back in. Okay, with that done, we'll slide the handle back on, crank it back down, hold the rotor until you can tighten it. There we go. Make sure the bail's flipping, and it does. All right, that brings us down to just the spool. Let's go ahead and take the adjuster nut off the top of the spool. Set that off to the side. And we're going to slide this out the bottom, like so. Oh, yeah, that definitely needs to be scrubbed up. And let's see if we can get the drag washers out of the top. Nope, still got to take the wire out. Let's get a smaller probe. There we go. Go. Now, let's see if we can take out the drags. Okay. Wow. Look at how much dirt is just in that one slot. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to this, why it is so dirty where it was stored, but we're going to scrub it up real quick and get it back in operation. Okay, the rubber washer seems to be the one on the bottom. Set that down. Then we've got Teflon drag washers. We've got an eared washer there. We got 2 keyed washers. All right, let's see if we can clean all this up. This certainly came out looking nice, considering the way it looked when we started. What we're going to do now is reassemble this drag. We're going to put some drag washer grease down the bottom for this rubber drag washer. It could be leather. Not sure which. It appears that it's leather. Okay, slide it down in there and give it just a little bit of grease, not much. Okay. Then we're going to follow that up with a keyed washer. Call it a keyed washer because it has this keyway on the side of it. See this flat spot? That's going to key it up to the axle the shaft for the pinion gear. Now we're going to put in these drag washers, these Teflon ones, and they really, I don't think, are going to need any lubrication, but I'm going to slap just a little bit on them anyway. I follow that up with this eared washer. It's got the two little ears. Kind of looks like a head with two ears sticking off of it. Those ears have to go into these slots on the side, like so. Then we're going to come back, put a little bit more grease on her. And we're talking little bits here. Notice that I'm not redousing the paintbrush every time. And we put the last keyed washer in like so. Now we'll slide this retaining ring back inside now. Now, if you take yours apart and it's missing this retaining ring, don't get all panicky. The retaining ring simply holds these parts in when you have this cap off. So if you don't have that cap off, there's not really much use in the retaining ring, so don't worry about it. Just make sure not to lose those drag washers when you take it apart. All right, we're going to slide. Oh, hang on, we're missing a part. There we go. All that's going to slide into here. Now this part we are going to put a little grease on, and this is a bottom washer, and then we're going to add some here because this has got to be able to slide when the drag is functional. So we'll put some grease there. All right, we're going to slide that up through, marry it up to the keyways, like so. Screw the knob back on, like so. And we're going to line, see this crossbar here? We're going to line that up with the crossbar slots here. Slide that in, drop it on, and it locks it in place. There we go. All right, let's check our, got our clicker on our drag. Let's tighten the drag down. Good drag. All right. There, that one thing I do have left to do, see this GS13X over here? Well, one of them fell off, so I'm going to clean this up with some acetone and use some rubber cement and glue that back in. Aside from that, this reel is good to go. If you like what you saw here today, please hit the like button. If you don't like it, that's okay. It's fine. You don't have to like what you see. It'd be nice if you'd let me know what you didn't like. I did get a comment last night telling me not to quit my day job. That's okay. Apparently they weren't impressed with something I had done. And fortunately, I don't have a day job, so I don't have to worry about that. I don't have a daytime job or a nighttime job. My sole job is to make my wife happy and to present fishing reels to you guys. So if you'd like to see further videos like this, please subscribe. And for now, that's Rick Stivers with Young Martin's Reels, signing out.